My wife cheated on me with her college ex. And when my daughter called him her fairy tale dad, I realized I'd become a background character in my own life. So I vanished. I'm Eric, 34. I've spent the last 17 years risking my life on high voltage electrical jobs to give my wife Amanda and our daughter Lily the best I could. A stable life, a good home, love, loyalty. But that Tuesday, it shattered me. A neighbor called. Mid-shift, Amanda was loading our furniture into a U-Haul with a man I didn't recognize. I raced home praying it wasn't what it looked like. It was worse. Amanda was calm, clipboard in hand as strangers carried away everything we built. The man? Sunglasses, smug face, giving orders like he owned the place. I lost it, punched him, square in the jaw. As chaos unfolded, Lily stepped out, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "That's Jason. Mom says he's her soulmate. My fairy tale dad." Something inside me died. I left without a word, knowing I could never go back to who I was before. I met Amanda when I was just 17, fresh out of high school and working night shifts at a hardware store to save for trade school. She walked in wearing a college sweatshirt and a smile that could disarm anyone. I was hooked from the first moment. She was smart, ambitious, talked about becoming a therapist, and made me feel like I mattered. I didn't have much. My dad left when I was 9, and my mom worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table. I thought Amanda was way out of my league, but she kept showing up at the store, buying light bulbs she didn't need, talking about her day. Within weeks, we were inseparable. By 19, we were married. People said we were too young, but we didn't care. I started working as an apprentice electrician while she enrolled in community college. We lived in a cramped apartment over a pawn shop, but we were happy. Or so I thought. When Lily was born, everything changed. I picked up every overtime shift I could get. Amanda had to drop out for a while to stay home, and I didn't mind. It felt like I had something worth fighting for. Years passed, and so did opportunities. I moved into industrial electrical work, dangerous but high paying. We bought a modest house in a good school district. I surprised Amanda with her dream kitchen after a big project wrapped up. Every bonus, every extra paycheck went into building our life. I never took vacations, rarely saw my buddies, skipped birthdays and barbecues, because I thought the best way to love my family was to provide. Amanda went back to school part-time, eventually got her license as a therapist. Lily thrived, always had what she needed. I thought we were building something together. Looking back now, I wonder how much of that was just me building alone. I remember the nights Amanda would fall asleep on the couch, textbooks open on her lap while I finished quoting out jobs for the next day. We didn't have date nights, we had survival nights. Takeout dinners between my double shifts, whispered conversations so we wouldn't wake Lily. But none of that ever felt like a burden. If anything, I wore it like a badge of honor. I was building something real. I took pride in knowing every wire in our home, every screw in the cabinets I installed myself. When Amanda passed her licensing exam, we celebrated with cheap wine and homemade lasagna. I told her I was proud. She cried. Even when we had disagreements, they never lasted. Amanda had a temper. Sometimes she could be sharp with her words, but I chalked it up to stress. The job, the kid, the grind. I thought that's what marriage was, showing up even when it's hard. I worked on her parents' house for free one summer. New deck, upgraded their entire electrical system, never asked for a dime. I just wanted them to like me. Amanda said they appreciated it. I never heard it from them directly, but I told myself actions speak louder than words. I gave everything I had to that family, and I believed with everything in me that Amanda loved me for it. It's wild how easily you can misread love when all you're looking for is proof that it exists. Lily used to run to the door when I came home, arms wide, screaming, "Daddy," like I was her hero. I'd scoop her up, dirty boots and all, and let her tell me everything about her day, what she drew, what she ate, which kid in class was being mean. Amanda would smile from the kitchen, sipping tea, and for a second I'd think, yeah, we're doing okay. This is what people work for. Every holiday, I made it count. Halloween costumes built from scratch, Christmas lights that lit up the whole block, birthday cakes at 2 a.m. when Amanda was too tired. I didn't complain. I figured that's what love looked like. Doing the small things even when no one claps. I thought we had a rhythm. Sure, she spent more time texting her old college friends lately, but I didn't push. She said they were reconnecting and I wanted her to have a life outside of just being a mom and wife. Funny how you can be so focused on holding everything together that you don't notice when someone's already planning to leave. I thought love was enough. Turns out sometimes love is just one person trying while the other writes their exit strategy in silence. The signs weren't loud. They never are. They sneak in quiet, like termites in a beam. You only notice when the structure starts to sag. At first, it was the little things. Amanda stopped asking about my day, stopped noticing when I came home exhausted, covered in soot and grime from another 14-hour shift. I'd try to tell her about a job gone sideways, a close call on site, and she'd nod absently, scrolling through her phone. Lily started pulling away, too. I used to be her hero. She'd wait up just to say goodnight, draw pictures of us holding hands. Now she barely looked up when I walked in. She started asking to spend more time with her mom's friend, Jason, some guy from Amanda's college days she reconnected with on Facebook. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Reunions happen, old friends catch up. Amanda said he was going through a divorce, needed support. Don't be insecure, she told me once, when I asked if they'd talked often. We're just friends. You're imagining things. I believed her. I didn't want to be that husband, the jealous, paranoid one, so I let it go. Of schedule. Then she started working late a lot. Her schedule got hectic. She started dressing differently, sharper, more effort than usual. I told her she looked nice. She smiled but didn't say thank you. She changed her phone passcode, claimed it was for patient confidentiality. She started locking the home office, started sleeping with her phone under her pillow. I still didn't push. I chalked it all up to stress, to life. One night I made dinner, her favorite, lemon herb chicken with roasted veggies. She came home 2 hours late, said she already ate. Didn't touch a bite. Lily came down later and asked if she could take the leftovers to Jason. He loves your cooking, Dad. That one hurt. But I laughed it off, said, sure, go ahead. I was the guy who held the ladder, who stayed behind to fix the roof while they went out, who answered every call, paid every bill, and never asked for anything in return. And slowly I started to feel like an extra in my own home. But I kept trying because that's what love is, right? Showing up, even when it's not returned. There were other things too, subtle, quiet shifts that piled up until they weren't so subtle anymore. Amanda stopped wearing the bracelet I gave her on our 10th anniversary, the one with our initials engraved. When I asked about it, she said it was too sentimental. She started leaving early on Saturdays saying she had clients. But when I offered to drive her once, just to be sweet, she snapped that she didn't need a chauffeur. Lily once asked why I didn't have social media. I said, I didn't have time for it. That's why Mom says you're out of touch, she replied casually, not even realizing the cut. Amanda never used to talk down about me in front of her. Now it felt like she didn't care if Lily saw me as a joke. Family dinners became rare. Amanda always had an excuse, exhausted, too busy, or had a late consult. Sometimes she and Lily would eat out with Jason. They called it catch-up time. I'd come home to an empty house, leftovers in the fridge, and silence so thick it hummed. One Sunday morning, I overheard Amanda on the phone. She was laughing, really laughing. That laugh I hadn't heard in months. I peeked around the corner, and she was curled up on the couch, whispering, smiling into her phone like a teenager. I stood there, invisible. That was the moment I realized I hadn't seen her happy in a long time, not with me. And Lily, She mirrored her mother, distance, eye rolls, sighs. Once, when I offered to help with her science project, she said, "It's okay. Jason already gave me the idea. He's really smart." I wasn't even mad. I just felt small. Every room in the house I had built felt like it was shrinking around me. I couldn't prove anything. I didn't want to start a war over suspicions. So I said nothing. And in saying nothing, I let the silence become a wall I couldn't climb over. It happened on a Tuesday. I was at a factory job 30 minutes from home installing a heavy-duty breaker system, sweat pouring down my back when my phone buzzed. It was Derek, my neighbor. We weren't close, so his call in the middle of my shift rang every internal alarm. "You need to come home now," he said, breathless. "There's a U-Haul in your driveway. Amanda's there, with a guy. They're loading your stuff." I dropped my tools. The drive back was a blur of red lights and sirens in my head. I was picturing a burglary, maybe Amanda being forced to help under duress, but deep down I knew. I just didn't want to admit it. When I turned onto our street, I saw it. A massive truck, half on my lawn, with strangers hauling out my leather couch and our television. Amanda stood in the doorway, clipboard in hand, calm as ever, like she was managing a team project. And him, Jason, smug, sunglasses, barking orders like he owned the place. I didn't think. I reacted. I stormed out of my truck and punched him so hard his glasses flew. Amanda screamed, the movers froze, Jason went down hard. "You think you can steal from me?" I shouted, grabbing his collar. "This is my house, my life." I called the cops right there, told them it was a robbery. While waiting, Amanda knelt beside Jason, wiping blood from his lip. That image will never leave me. When the officers arrived, I explained everything. Amanda claimed she was just taking her half. The cops shut that down immediately, said no property could be divided without court approval. Amanda looked blindsided. I was still shaking when Lily came home from school. She looked around, saw the chaos, the blood on the carpet, and asked what happened. I told her the truth. Her response, "Oh, you mean Jason?" I couldn't breathe. "You knew?" I whispered. She nodded, picking at her nails. "Yeah, Mom told me months ago, said he's her soulmate, that she only married you because you were stable." And then the final blow. She said it would have been perfect if Jason had been my dad. That's when something inside me broke, not shattered, evaporated. I'd spent nearly 2 decades giving them everything, and this was the thanks. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, trying to figure out when love had curdled into betrayal. By morning, I had made up my mind. I was done. I spent that day in a daze. After the police left, I sat on the couch, what was left of it, staring at the dent in the wall from where Jason's head had hit when I tackled him. My knuckles were bleeding, my arms trembling from the adrenaline come down, and still the worst pain came from what Lily had said. She said it would have been perfect if Jason had been my dad. I kept repeating it in my mind like a sick mantra. Lily, my daughter, the girl I had held as a baby when Amanda was too exhausted, the one I drove to every soccer practice, helped build science fair volcanoes for, stayed up nursing fevers beside. That same girl wished another man had been her father. What kind of man does that make me? Amanda texted that night, not to apologize, but to demand I act like an adult and not traumatize Lily with my behavior. She said I owed her respect during the transition. Transition? Like this was a job change, like she hadn't ripped my heart out in broad daylight? As a charger in a wallet. Instead, I started packing a bag. The next morning, I drove to my buddy Marcus's law office. He was the kind of attorney you called when you wanted blood. I'd rewired his cabin for free the year before. He owed me. When I told him everything, he didn't even blink. "We'll freeze the assets first," he said. File for divorce immediately. You'll be protected. She'll get the legal minimum. As he drew up papers, I called the bank, emptied our joint account except $37.00. That's what Amanda had contributed in the last 12 months. Petty? Maybe, but necessary. Called HR, removed her from every benefit, swapped her name out of my 401k, called the credit card companies, canceled everything she had access to. Amanda tried calling again. I let it ring. That night, Lily knocked on my door. Her eyes were red, cheeks blotchy. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, voice cracking. "I'm not the one who started this, Lily," I said, "but I won't be the one who stays and pretends it's okay." She looked like she wanted to say something, maybe even apologize, but then turned away. And in that moment, I felt more alone than I had in my entire life. The betrayal hadn't just come from Amanda, it had seeped into the very foundation of my home, into the heart of the girl I once believed I'd do anything for. I was a ghost in my own story, but not anymore. Before I left the house, I walked into what used to be our bedroom. Amanda's side of the closet was mostly empty. Her perfume still lingered faintly in the air. A smell that used to bring me comfort now made my stomach turn. I reached into the drawer of my nightstand and pulled out our wedding photo. We were so young, so hopeful. I stared at it for a long moment, then gently placed it face down. There would be no screaming, no begging, no one last chance. Amanda had made her choice. And for the first time in 17 years, so did I. I locked the front door behind me, got in my truck, and drove away, not just from the house, but from the man I used to be. The one who tolerated everything in the name of love. He was gone now. The days after I left were a haze. I moved into a small apartment across town, 2 bedrooms, one for me and one for Lily if she ever wanted to visit. At first, I kept the door shut. I couldn't bring myself to set it up. It felt like admitting I was still holding out hope. I threw myself into work, took every overtime shift, said yes to every last-minute job. I figured if I could just stay tired enough, I wouldn't have to think. But the silence was unbearable. The apartment was too clean, too empty. There were no toys on the floor, no shoes by the door, no music from Amanda's favorite playlist, no sound of Lily laughing in her room, just nothing. Sleep became impossible. I'd lay awake staring at the ceiling fan, remembering the night Amanda fell asleep on my chest after Lily was born, how she whispered thank you like I'd saved her. Was that real? Or was I always just the stable choice? I started questioning everything, every smile, every I love you. Had any of it been true? Or had I been living a role, provider, protector, placeholder, while Amanda's heart waited for someone else? Sometimes I'd find myself parked outside the old house. I never knocked, just sat there like a stranger, watching the lights turn on and off behind drawn curtains. I missed Lily, but I didn't know how to talk to her. Every time I remembered her words, Jason would have been the perfect dad, my throat closed up. My mother called often. She told me I wasn't alone, that I still had people who loved me, but even her voice felt like it was coming from underwater. One evening, about 3 weeks in, I hit bottom. I came home from a 16-hour shift and found myself crying on the kitchen floor. No warning, no buildup, just collapsed under the weight of it all. The betrayal, the exhaustion, the silence. I thought about driving until the gas ran out, about never coming back. I even wrote a note, nothing dramatic, just enough to say I was sorry. But then I looked at the second bedroom door, still shut, still waiting. And something in me whispered, not yet. There was still something left to fight for, I just didn't know what it was yet. That weekend, I got a call from Carol, Amanda's mother. "She's not doing well," she said, her voice tight. "Lily, I mean." I said nothing. "She barely eats. Her grades are slipping. She cries all the time." A part of me wanted to say, good, let her feel it. But another part, The dad in me felt like someone had driven a nail through my chest. She's 16, Eric, Carol continued. She doesn't understand the damage her words caused. She's just repeating what Amanda told her. I wanted to believe that, but when you hear your child say they wish someone else had been their parent, it's a wound no apology can fix. Still, I promised Carol I'd think about reaching out. That night, I sat in the apartment, staring at Lily's door. I got up, opened it for the first time. The room was empty, bare walls, no furniture yet, but it still felt like hers. Like she might walk in any second and plop onto the floor with a teenage huff, saying she didn't like the paint color. I cried again, not because I was angry, but because I missed her. I missed being her dad. Amanda tried to call that week too. I didn't answer. She left voicemails, some angry, some tearful. You can't just disappear, she said in one. This isn't fair to Lily. Fair? The woman who gutted my world now wanted to talk fairness? But I kept listening. Every word reminded me of why I left, why I had to keep going. Not for revenge, not even for pride, but for peace. Because if I didn't find something solid to hold on to soon, I was afraid I'd dissolve completely. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went for a walk without my phone. Just me in the cold air. I ended up at a small park not far from the apartment. I watched a dad push his little girl on the swings, her laughter echoing like something from another lifetime. And I wondered, could I ever be that man again? Could I be the father Lily used to run to, the husband who once made Amanda cry tears of joy instead of betrayal? Maybe not. But maybe I didn't have to be who I was. Maybe I could become someone new, someone who survived this storm, not as a victim, but as a man rebuilding from the wreckage. The pain was still there, raw, unrelenting. But for the first time since everything fell apart, I felt something else underneath it. Resolve. Maybe this wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning. The first step back wasn't dramatic. No grand speeches, no sudden epiphanies, just a Saturday morning where I got out of bed, made coffee, and didn't feel like screaming. I started with small things, cleaned the apartment, bought a bookshelf, set up the second bedroom, not because I thought Lily would come, but because I needed to believe she might. I went to the gym again, not to punish my body, but to reclaim it, to feel like I owned something. Work got better too. My crew noticed the change. I stopped snapping at people, started mentoring the younger guys again. Slowly, the fog began to lift. Then one night, Lily texted, "Grandma says I can visit if you're okay with it." I stared at the screen for 5 whole minutes before replying, "Room's ready whenever you are." She came the following weekend. It was awkward at first. She didn't know where to put her bag. I didn't know whether to hug her, but we managed. We ordered pizza, watched a movie, talked about her classes, her friends. No heavy topics, just coexisting. But at one point, she looked at me and said, "You seem different." "I am," I replied, "trying to be." She nodded, eyes shining. "I like it." From there, things started to rebuild. I began therapy not just for the divorce, but for everything I'd buried over the years: rage, fear, loneliness, the feeling of being chosen last, even in my own home. My therapist helped me see patterns, how I'd made myself small to keep peace, how I mistook silence for stability, how Amanda had needed a hero and I'd volunteered. Without realizing, I deserved more than to be someone's safe option. Lily came over every other weekend, then every weekend. Soon, she started leaving things behind: books, a hoodie, her toothbrush, until one night she asked, "Can I just stay here for a while?" I smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. She cried. I did too. Amanda didn't protest. Maybe she knew she'd lost something she couldn't get back. Life wasn't perfect, but it was real again. And real was enough. About a month after Lily moved in, I got a promotion. My manager said it was long overdue, that he'd seen me show up every day even when my life was burning down. I became site lead on a big commercial contract, regular hours, better pay, and a crew I got to pick myself. For the first time in years, I had weekends off. Lily and I made traditions: Saturday breakfast at the diner, Sunday night board games. She even asked me to teach her how to change the oil in her car. So, I don't have to ask boys for help, she said with a grin. I started sleeping better, eating better, laughing again. One night we sat on the balcony watching the city lights. Lily leaned her head on my shoulder. I told Mom I'm staying, she said. She didn't say much, just cried. I nodded, unsure what to say. She told me Jason's gone, Lily continued. He hit her. She has a restraining order now. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Pain had found its way to all of us. I'm sorry I hurt you, she whispered. I didn't mean it. I didn't really want Jason as my dad. I know, I said softly, but it still hurt. We sat in silence, and that silence wasn't empty, it was honest. Later that week, I met someone. Her name was Rachel. She was the project manager for one of our new contracts. Sharp, funny, completely uninterested in fixing anyone. We went slow. Coffee, then dinner, then a walk through the farmer's market. She met Lily after a month. They clicked immediately. Two sharp minds, both survivors in their own way. And me, I was learning to let go of Amanda, of the bitterness, of the idea that being betrayed meant I had to stay broken. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was starting to live. Sometimes I still think about the man I used to be, the one who thought love meant sacrificing until there was nothing left. But now I know better. Love isn't about being someone's backup plan. It's about choosing yourself, too. And finally, I did. It started with a letter. Amanda had filed a motion to renegotiate custody and child support. After months of radio silence, she suddenly claimed I was alienating Lily from her, painting her as unstable. I laughed when I read it. She wasn't wrong. Lily didn't want to see her. But it wasn't because of me. Amanda had dug her own grave the moment she betrayed both of us. I called Marcus, my lawyer. She wants war, I said. Let's give her one. We gathered everything: text messages, voice recordings, screenshots of Amanda threatening to send Lily to boarding school if she told me the truth, statements from Carol and Bill confirming the manipulation. Even Rachel provided a notarized character statement, having seen firsthand the aftermath Amanda's actions left on Lily. Court came quickly. Amanda showed up alone. No Jordan, no support. She looked thinner, stressed, not the confident woman who once orchestrated her escape in broad daylight. The judge was unimpressed, especially when Marcus laid out the timeline: Amanda's secret affair, the attempted furniture heist, the coercion of a minor to cover up adultery. Then Lily took the stand. She was composed, direct. My mom didn't just lie. She made me lie, too. She said if I ruined her happiness, I'd lose everything. I was scared, but I don't want to live with someone who sees me as a tool, not a daughter. Amanda's lawyer stammered. The judge shut down the motion on the spot. But we weren't done. Marcus had prepared a countersuit seeking damages for emotional distress caused by Amanda's manipulative tactics and slander. She had gone around telling people I was abusive, unstable, that I turned Lily against her. We presented witness statements, employer letters, even therapist notes confirming the truth. Amanda's expression changed from defiance to panic. She tried to settle. I refused. I wanted the judgment on record. By the end of the hearing, Amanda was ordered to issue a public apology through a legal statement, retract her accusations, and pay for half of Lily's therapy bills going forward. He left court red-faced and shaking. I didn't gloat. I walked out with Lily beside me, hand in hand. That was the real victory, not revenge. Osier. Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. The case had made local headlines: divorce, custody battle, domestic scandal. I kept my head down, but Marcus spoke on our behalf. No further comment, he said. My client is focused on healing and his daughter's well-being. That night, social media lit up. Amanda's apology statement went live. Short, legal, and devastating to her image. Former coworkers commented. Old friends shared their shock. Even some of her clients at the salon left reviews calling out her hypocrisy. She deactivated her Facebook within hours. Meanwhile, I got messages, dozens, from other dads, moms, even teenagers, people thanking me for standing up, for not staying silent. Rachel and I celebrated quietly, just takeout and wine on the couch, Lily asleep in her room. That was brutal, she said, but you didn't flinch. I couldn't, I replied. Not this time. Weeks passed. Amanda stayed quiet. Rumors said she moved in with a cousin out of town, trying to rebuild what was left of her life. She texted Lily once, an apology. Lily didn't reply. Therapy helped both of us. Lily began journaling. She wrote a poem about forgiveness that made me cry. I took up woodworking again, making a shelf for her books and a tiny box for her old letters. She smiled when I gave it to her. This is more than enough, she whispered. And maybe, just maybe, it was. Because in the end, my revenge wasn't taking Amanda down, was rising above her, living better, loving harder, and never ever letting her break me again. A year ago, I thought my life was over. I'd lost my wife, my daughter's trust, my home. Everything I thought defined me. The pain was unbearable. I woke up each day feeling like a ghost in my own life. But now looking back, I realized that wasn't the end. It was a beginning. Through all the chaos, I learned what real strength looks like. Not silence, not endurance, but standing up for yourself when it's hardest. Saying no to being used, saying yes to your own worth. I also learned that forgiveness isn't always about others. Sometimes it's about setting yourself free. I forgave myself for not seeing the sign, for staying too long, for loving someone who never truly saw me. Lily and I are good now, not perfect, but honest. We talk about everything from trust to therapy to future dreams. She wants to study psychology to help kids like herself. That alone makes every fight worth it. Rachel's still here too. We're taking it slow, but it feels different, healthier, real. And me? I've stopped waiting for happiness to return like a package delayed in the mail. I build it piece by piece. Some nights, I still think about Amanda, not with rage, just curiosity. How someone could throw away so much for so little. But those thoughts don't haunt me anymore. They pass, like clouds. What stays is this. You are not your worst day. You are not what someone else failed to love. You are what you choose to become after the storm. And if you're reading this in your own wreckage, please know there's life after heartbreak, there's peace after war, there's joy after betrayal. You just have to keep walking. And one day you'll look around and realize you didn't just survive, you grew wings. There's something else I learned, something schools and movies don't teach you. Your value isn't defined by who chooses to stay. It's revealed by what you do when they leave. At my lowest, I thought I was nothing without Amanda, just a paycheck, a placeholder, a man who got left behind. But in rebuilding, I found myself, the version of me that laughs with his daughter, mentors his crew, learns how to make damn good lasagna, and sleeps at night without resentment in his chest. I stopped chasing closure from people who never gave me honesty. I stopped waiting for apologies to heal me. And I started showing up for myself, for Lily, for the life I deserve. That's the truth I want anyone reading this to take away. You don't need to burn with rage to rise. You don't need to become cold to be strong. You can be soft and still draw boundaries. You can be hurt and still choose love again. Every scar is a story, and every story has the power to become someone else's map out of darkness. So write your own ending. Don't let someone else's betrayal be the final chapter. Heal loudly, love carefully, and never ever forget you are enough, exactly as you are, and always have been. 6 months later, it was a quiet Sunday morning. The kind where nothing extraordinary happens, but you still remember it years later because it felt whole. Lily was in the kitchen, flipping pancakes like a pro. Rachel sat on the couch, legs curled up, grading a stack of blueprints while sipping coffee. I leaned against the door frame, watching them. "You're staring again," Rachel teased without looking up. "Just taking inventory," I replied. "Of what?" "Everything I never thought I'd have again." Later that day, we drove out to the lake, just the three of us. Lily brought her camera, capturing everything, the way the light hit the water, the laugh Rachel and I shared over a bad joke, the old man feeding ducks. "Dad," Lily said as we skipped stones, "do you think people get second chances at real happiness?" I thought about it. "Not always," I admitted, "but when they do, they have to be brave enough to take them." She nodded, thoughtful. "Then, I think I'm going to write about us for my psychology entrance essay." I raised an eyebrow. "Us?" "Yeah, about resilience, about learning that love isn't perfect, but it can still heal." My heart swelled. That night, back home, Rachel found an old Polaroid tucked into Lily's room, a photo of the three of us at the lake. On the back, Lily had written, "Family isn't what you're born into, it's who stays when everything falls apart." And that's the thing no one tells you after betrayal. You don't rebuild the same life. You build a better one choice at a time. Weeks later, Lily got accepted into her first choice university. She screamed when the email came, then burst into tears. "I didn't think I'd make it," she said, hugging me so tight I almost couldn't breathe. "After everything, you did this," I told her. "No one else, just you." We celebrated with ice cream and a movie night. Rachel baked cookies. It felt like something out of a sitcom. Messy, warm, real. One evening, just before the fall semester began, Lily handed me an envelope. "Open it later," she said. Alone. I waited until she'd gone to bed. Inside was a letter, just 2 pages, but it felt like a novel. She wrote about the day she told me she wanted Jason as her fairy tale dad, about how wrong she'd been, how she had confused fantasy with love, how she realized over time that love was steady, not flashy, honest, not perfect. "You never left me," she wrote, "even when I didn't deserve it, even when I didn't understand." I cried reading it, not because I was sad, but because it finally felt finished. The story of betrayal didn't end in ruins. It ended in rebirth. A messy, imperfect, beautiful rebirth. And somewhere in that quiet understanding, I realized something simple but profound. Some stories don't need a grand finale. They just need a peaceful chapter, one where the characters choose each other again, not because they have to, but because they truly want to.